and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a very hot episode 141 of NerdPod Generations. Not only is it the content, but it's hot outside.
It's one of those weeks where I can finally join the pantheon of YouTubers that's like, oh, I gotta turn off the fan so we can record.
Well, last week was kind of the first one.
Yeah.
Boy, you sweat up a storm.
I'm already sweating. I just turned off the fan. like literally, you went to the bathroom and I was like, I'll turn off the fan. And then we started the show and I'm sitting here like, I hate it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I am one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the, for lack of better words, moist Al Jetsam. Hello, sir.
Oh, moist is not a good one. Hello, friends and enemies.
I love using that word, though, because it makes people so uncomfortable.
It's the word that more than any other word I've heard people say they don't like.
Oh, yeah.
Like, by far.
It just sounds terrible.
Yeah. Well, it has a lot of vowel noises people don't like.
Yes.
And it has a connotation people don't care for.
Yes.
So
because there are good connotations, but man, there are bad connotations going with that word. Well, anyways, folks, the NerdPod Generations 141, so that means there are 140 previous episodes. So just go to nerdpodgen.com, and there are links to Spotify, or you can find us on Apple Podcasts. Please go subscribe to our podcast, and you can listen to all the back episodes, which are all fantastic. If you want to go to YouTube, there's a link to youtube.com, where Al has been graciously putting up clips from our show, so you can listen to us in bite-sized segments on YouTube.
Yeah, the Watch Play Reads are getting some good traction.
Yeah, dude, that last one hit, that started going quick.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by that.
I will also say your Watch Play Reads are more popular than my Watch Play Reads.
Well, I think the thing is, I've brought up some topics that you've gotten very passionate about too.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, and I think that helps. Like, it's when I bring up topics most of the time, it's not necessarily for me to talk about. Yeah. It's to set you up,
get a conversation going.
Yeah.
I also think that anybody who remembers the old Colbert Report before the Late Show, I think we have the Colbert bump when it comes to the Grown segment and anything Marvel related.
Yeah.
Anything that has Marvel in it.
And let me tell you, folks, if you like that, go to youtube.com and look up the Obi-Wan Kenobi shows.
Oh boy.
Holy cow. If you like our bumps on that, you're going to love Obi-Wan.
I should also start working on putting up the watching reviews.
Oh yeah,
because some of those, I mean, they're chunkier.
Yeah,
because they're full episodes.
And we do watch and reviews, folks. Which the next one, unfortunately, will probably be Deadpool and Wolverine. But we will go to a movie, watch it, and then we'll just come right back and review it. Which Devara, the new Hollywood one, I think that got pushed to September.
Did it? We could do that,
which is good because I was planning because I thought that would be a good Apple Cinema one because I know they're going to show it.
Yeah. They might be the only ones showing it.
I'm thinking the Little would also.
Yeah, the Little might.
But, we'll have a nice burger while we watch some Indian people getting their throats slit in blood.
I want to see this movie that looks like it could be 300, but is very clearly set in a more modern setting. And I'm just like, how is it?
It's like 300 with pirates.
I swear, because I thought for so long that it was a period piece. And then you were like, but there's those big shipping containers. And then I watched the trailers again. I was like, this isn't a period piece. This is modern.
It's just awesome.
What the fuck is this shit?
And there's a music video to one of the songs from it, and it's awesome because it's like a hard rock Indian song.
Oh, fun!
And it was really good, and the video is awesome. It's like it's a fever dream, but it's really good.
There are some great Bollywood and Tollywood numbers out there, just so choice.
And you need to, we'll be discussing one of those things coming up soon. We do like to start every show with what have we been watching, playing, reading. I've taken over the last few weeks, so I'm going to let you kick this one off, sir.
I will begin with, I've been very busy this week. Me and Kelly have had a big week of watching various things. The one that I do want to start with is Paddington.
Awesome movie.
So Paddington is that new movie. Everybody has a movie like this every 10 years where you haven't seen it and everybody and their cousin is like, oh my God, you have to watch this. And you're like, I don't know, it hasn't been a priority for me. And then you watch and you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Paddington, not Paddington 2. That's the big one. That's the one that's coming next.
Yeah.
But Paddington was such a bizarre, wonderful experience because the content of the movie has the same tone as Beethoven. But artistically, it's outstanding.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's insane. Some of the artistic things done in this movie me and Kelly were just like, Jesus Christ. At one point, Paddington runs away because he thinks he's causing too much trouble for the family. The family have this beautiful spiral staircase in the middle of their house, and along the spiral staircase is painted a tree with cherry blossoms on it. And the family come back after reading Paddington's note, and this wind comes through and blows all the cherry blossoms off of the painting. And me and Kelly were just like, Jesus Christ.
There are moments, because in that moment reminded me of, did you ever see What Dreams May Come?
I haven't seen it, no.
It's okay.
See, this is why. This reaction is exactly why.
But it's one of the more depressing things you'll ever watch in your life.
Exactly.
But when Robin Williams, his children die, and he goes, and then he dies, and he goes to heaven, and when he first gets there, heaven to him is a oil painting. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw Paddington, that scene kind of reminded me, because the life around him, it was like a live painting.
Well, there's that moment where Paddington is in the attic writing a letter back to his aunt. And this giant dollhouse is in the attic, and the camera pans over to it, and the dollhouse opens, and it's the inside of the house with the family. And we go room to room with this family. And I'm just like, oh my fucking God. This is insane. The artistic nature of this is incredible. This is somewhere between Wes Anderson and Beethoven. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I almost said Kate Winslet. Not Kate Winslet. My favorite, Nicole Kidman, stops by on her way to AMC to have her face blown up by a stove. And I'm just like, what is this movie where there's so many incredible artistic moments that will just take your breath away? And then also there's a toilet overflowing and a joke about a dad using a toothbrush after a bear has cleaned his ears with it. So it's just like, I'm just baffled. I'm just fully baffled by it because it's a beautiful, gorgeous movie with a heart that I would never love in another movie. If it wasn't made this spectacularly, I would be like, oh, really? This is Paddington? Is earwax jokes and broken toilets and overflowing bathrooms and blowing up women that are either elephants or snakes, and Peter Capaldi kind of weirdly hitting and just like so many things. I was like, oh, why? I did not think this was going to be here. And then you turn around in this incredible fresca like in Venice is behind you and you're like, oh.
See, I think the thing with this and the second one, which is also very good, they're kind of, I think the thing that saves them is it's children movie, but it's British children's movie.
Well, me and Kelly were talking about this. They fall into that category of family movie.
Yes.
Children's movies are what Beethoven is. It's a movie that isn't really for anybody but kids. But then you have like this is a family movie because the parents will be like, oh my God, oh my heart.
Yeah.
You're just using it as a speed bag, Rocky. You got to take a break, man.
And the way I knew that this was a good movie is my son, when we told him we were going to watch Paddington, he like sulked. Mm-hmm. My son, when he gets excited watching a movie, he will stand up, bounce, and like run around. Mm-hmm. Because he doesn't know how to unleash his excitement quietly.
Yeah.
And 3 minutes into that movie, he bounced the entire fucking movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a good fucking
movie.
I knew it was just then and there. I'm like, this is a good movie.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to bring up is we watched, so we're going to cover Godzilla Minus One.
Yes.
It's finally on today's docket. We are...
Biggest surprise of the week when that showed up on Netflix.
Yeah, no, we got to Friday. And
couldn't believe it.
We were like, oh, I guess we'll do Rebel Moon, and we'll try and watch Justice League Crisis on Infinite Part 2, and we'll put a cap on that well. And then Godzilla Minus One dropped on Netflix, and I was I guess we're doing that.
I got to work in the morning. Right before I text you, I just looked up, I can't remember, I think it was IGN.com, and it said, Godzilla Minus One is on Netflix. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I text you right away. I'm like, we're changing what we're doing.
Throw out the first page. We're redoing the whole thing. So we watched Godzilla Minus One yesterday, and we got into the afternoon, and we were kind of just like, you want to watch another Godzilla movie? So I watched Shin Godzilla, which is an interesting movie. Yeah. This is a fascinating one.
It's kind of hard to go to that one after Minus One. I've seen them in reverse order.
Yeah. Because it's just such a different movie. In terms of, they both have, they're both this premise of trying to show Godzilla through a very specific lens.
Yes.
Right? So in both movies, Godzilla is both a metaphor and a literal thing that they have to deal with. In Godzilla Minus One, it's obviously nuclear war and the fallout after World War II in Japan and all these other things, cultural issues. In Godzilla, Shin Godzilla, the whole thing is just bureaucracy. It's Godzilla : bureaucracy. And it's just how the government addresses a thing like Godzilla.
And the character design was weird.
See, this is my other thing, is that it kind of bounced back and forth between having some good effects and having some really bad effects. And I think the bad effects were that way on purpose.
I think so, too.
I think it was done as a stylistical thing to have, like, these big eyes that don't blink and this kind of just passive face that's just kind of wriggling around.
So I think both these movies were homages to the old school Godzilla.
Yeah.
But this one was a little bit more of, like, the early Doctor Who homage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like,
well,
right.
It's an interesting premise because we're once again rewriting the Godzilla lore. This doesn't go into the canon. This is a new whole thing on its own. And so in this world, Godzilla has never existed. He's never been in Toho Studios or in the ocean. Nobody has ever heard of a Godzilla. What the hell is a Godzilla? Suddenly this weird creature comes crawling out of the water, and you have a bunch of scientists that are like, it'll never get on land. And then you have one scientist who's like, oh, it's going to get on land. And what do you know? It gets on land. And it's just kind of like wriggling down the street.
And that's the thing. When it first came on land, I'm like, is this the creature Godzilla's going to fight? And then it kind of...
And then it begins to evolve into Godzilla.
And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was our reaction, too. Yeah. We were like, what is that? And I was like, I think it's going to turn into Godzilla. It's not done evolving. But there was also weird stuff like when it first shows up, you have this big red blood stain in the water.
Yeah.
And it floods into an underground car roadway. And so you have all this blood rushing towards camera, kind of Shining style. And you're like, oh, okay. Did it like kill somebody? Did it eat a boat? We find out later, no, it's just breathing out blood.
Yeah.
But it's just never addressed. A lot of stylistical, interesting choices made here that I found not challenging, but it was definitely more of a procedural Godzilla movie than like a typical Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to watch Godzilla movies with my sister, and they would always just watch the monster fights.
Really?
They would skip all the plot and just watch the monster fights.
Most of them didn't have that much of a plot.
And so this is my thing. If my dad did that with this movie, I think he would only watch the last fight of the movie.
Yeah.
There's almost no, like, there are fight scenes. There are obviously monster scenes. But all of this movie is the bureaucracy of dealing with, which is interesting. It makes it sound bad. It's really interesting because you see how hamstrung Japan is as far as being able to protect themselves and all the various hoops that they have to jump through and all the things that they have to do and all the fears that they have over doing anything wrong. You know, this idea that if they even kill just a few civilians by accident, it's going to cause a major global issue that's going to set them back decades, and they can't even risk that. So they have to do everything clean. They can't have anybody die that doesn't need to die. They have to have as few casualties here, there, and everywhere. And they don't have control over their own military. They have to go to the U.S. for everything. There's this side plot where the U.S. secretly made Godzilla by accident by dumping a bunch of stuff off the side of an island. That one I've found confusing. I don't know if that was just me having trouble keeping up with the subtitles thing or what, but there were just a lot of moments where I was like, okay, but why isn't America okay? I guess America's just not helping because they suck. We can all agree America sucks. So they made this problem. They control the Japanese military, and they're also not going to help until the third act of the movie.
Interesting thing about the government reaction to this is I saw this shortly after we watched Train to Busan.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's kind of the same thing where the government was like, oh, this isn't really...
We don't need to address this.
No. So it was interesting because I'm like, is this like a new theme in these movies?
Well, and it was interesting because that was something that happened in both Godzilla movies. Is that in both Godzilla movies, the government has the chance to tell people ahead of time, like, hey, get out of this area. And in both movies, the government says, that's going to cause more damage than just having these people in harm's way when shit hits the fan. And so it's just like some interesting rebeats.
Yes.
The way that the lasers are used in both movies was really interesting. I found that really fascinating. Especially like the Shin Godzilla laser is crazy.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
It's crazy. And watching that thing go off, it takes your breath away.
Yeah.
You're just shocked by it. And there's some really great moments. I love watching Godzilla evolve in Shin Godzilla. I think that was really well done too. But man, after there's a moment where a helicopter is destroyed, and you're like, okay, so this is going to change the body of the movie, and you're like, kinda. But it's more just now people who never had the chance to pass the buck are now going to be given the chance to pass the buck. And it was just interesting. If you're into red tape and politics, it's something that you'll definitely love. But I do think that it was also a little... It wasn't cold because it had a lot of humor.
Yes.
The main character, quote unquote, main character that we follow is this guy who keeps on he's the guy that says this is a monster. Everybody else is like, oh, it's volcanic activity. It's this, it's that. He's like, no, this is a monster. And everybody's like, no, it's not. And then Godzilla shows up and they're like, oh, I guess it's a monster. All the advisors are like, it won't come up on land. It's incapable of coming up on land. It can't support its own weight. And the guy's like, no, it's going to come up on land. The prime minister comes on and says it will never come on land. And then he immediately, like a Wes Anderson moment where his aide comes over and is like, oh, it's on land, sir. And it's like, oh, just a lot of shocked look to camera. Like, oh, I do like it. I like that, again, very Wes Anderson, as this guy goes through and becomes higher and higher ranked because he's the only guy that seems to be able to predict what Godzilla is going to do, which is never explained why he thought it was a monster or anything. He just always had this theory and he was always right, and we never know why. He's like, we find out where the Godzilla came from. It has nothing to do with this guy. Like, it's not like they don't address where Godzilla came from. They tell us where he came from. It just has nothing to do with this guy, and how this guy found out about it, I have no idea. Or how he knew that this was such a lucky guess and kept on making all these lucky guesses. Anyway, as the movie goes on, his title gets longer and longer, and so they list his title at the top whenever anybody addresses it. And it just keeps on getting longer and longer and taking up more and more of the screen. And so there's some really good, funny elements to this that are very tongue-in-cheek, very knowing of themselves. But I do have to say, after the first 40 minutes, I was like, so this is just going to be all bureaucracy. Yeah. That's the entire movie. Okay. Good to know.
But what's nice also is this was, and the big difference also between this and...
Godzilla Minus One.
This is... technically the most modern Godzilla, Shin Godzilla. Yeah. Because it takes place now.
Today. You had the U.S. with sophisticated bombers. Yep. You had drones that were used to execute certain maneuvers. So definitely it was the most modern Godzilla.
Because I'm not talking like the god-awful Matthew Broderick one. No. Like, most of them take place in, like, the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
And some of the stuff that I really liked about this movie was the found footage stuff.
Yes.
Where there was,
the shaky cam stuff.
Exactly.
Like
there was just, like, people recording on their phones. There's not, like, a story to it. It's not, like, a through line. But you see people's reactions via their phone and via the internet. And that was a part that I did like about it. Because, like, the government is talking about, like, is there any way we can keep the secret? And they're like, no, it's already on Twitter. Like, you can't. You got to address it. You got to figure out what you're going to say. So I did like that. But, man, the amount of times where they're like, okay, we have to go to a new conference room. We have to go to the executive conference room. I'm like, God,
that was the worst. No, you don't. They kept going from room to room. It did get to a point where I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
When they're like, okay, we have to go to the executive conference room, and then they go there, and then the prime minister's like, okay, I have to get my uniform on. No. Just address the fucking thing. Stop going from room to room.
This is like... obviously a cultural thing, because I'm wondering if this is how it really really happen, and we're just like, okay,
that seemed to be the implication, is that both these movies are also about the way Japan treats its citizens. And the resounding cry in both movies is, man, the government sucks.
They think everyone are idiots and they can't tell them shit.
Yeah,
but it's like watching this is you were right, it's like the opposite of 12 Angry Men, which takes place in one fucking room.
Yeah.
This is like, no, we got to take place in every room in every building.
They just keep going from room to room, and you see these whole rooms of people, and they set up the room, and then they break down the room, and you can see just how quickly they can get in and out of a space, and you're just like, God, I'm not saying don't do this, but man, we are spending a lot of time.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that.
So interesting. I've heard a lot of people talk about how great Shin Godzilla is. I'm not saying it's not great. I think it is more of a cup of tea movie than necessarily like you have to run out and watch it. And I say that because Godzilla Minus One is a great movie.
Yes. So we got to talk about Venom: The Last Dance, which we just watched.
Let's cut this off at the head, please.
So, what I'm curious about, so the first movie did well financially, even though it got panned by not only critics. I like to consider the first movie the Nintendo Wii. Came out with a bang, everyone saw it, critics gave it a lot of shit, and then it petered off quickly. Because people realized that, okay, this is just shovelware.
Well, it was one of those movies where this is when I can't help but use the term filthy casual.
Yes.
Usually I like to just say casual. For years I said filthy casual. And I stopped. I was like, oh, that's really degrading. I shouldn't say filthy casual. No. Only filthy casuals like Venom.
Yes.
Like, this is bad. This is a bad franchise. This is a bad movie. All three movies are bad.
Yeah.
And once you start digging into literally any level of the canon, you're like, holy shit, this sucks!
Oh, it's terrible. But then the second movie, Let There Be Carnage, leaned into the first movie because the first movie made so much money, and the second one not only was panned by critics, it didn't make shit.
No, nobody liked that.
It bombed. And then this movie leans into both of them and does the exact same fucking thing. It's like, who's the villain? It's got to be a whole civilization of symbiotes, not just one or two.
The Clintar are coming.
Oh, they're coming.
But not null. Not anybody that you would actually care about coming from Clintar. No. This is just bullshit monsters coming from a anonymous planet. And also, Venom can't get his catchphrase down. And also, Venom says, holy shit! And Venom dances with his neighbor who runs the bodega and runs into her in Vegas.
Humor was painful.
It looks so bad. It looks so bad. All of the humor looks so terrible. To the point where I'm just like, what the fuck is this? Like, we've gotten so far away from Lethal Protector. When I saw the first Venom movie, my thought was, I want to see you do it. I want to see you do it. I want to see you make this movie where you say you can make a Venom movie with Eddie Brock without Peter Parker. Yes. I want to see you do it. And I watched it. I was like, oh, guys, this is not good. I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm saying that the way that you chose to do it is pretty bad. Yeah. From Rocket, through the way that they do the Life Foundation, through having Venom call itself Venom from the very start.
And just the filmmaking, it was like pitch black, and they're having these fights, and you can't see shit.
One character is black, and the other one is gray.
Yeah.
Good job on the palette.
Let's have them fight at night.
Yeah, and they fight so many stupid decisions. And so then you jump into Let There Be Carnage.
Yes.
And it's, oh my God, I forgot about Woody Harrelson's wig in Venom.
The Ronald McDonald wig at the end.
What the fuck was that?
And that's the worst part. It's like, Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock was a great idea.
Wasn't a bad Eddie Brock.
And even Woody Harrelson as
Cletus Cassidy is a good idea.
Was a good casting. They just fucked it up.
They just have terrible writing.
Oh, it's so bad.
The writing is atrociously bad because it's turning Venom into this being who's kind of like on Rumspringa, where he's just like, he's experiencing everything in life for the first time, and he just always wants to eat and party and have a good time, and he has only, surface level feelings about everything, and is just so shallow and stupid, and also constantly surprised by things to a degree that I've never imagined. I will never get over in the trailer for Let There Be Carnage when Venom goes, oh shit, it's a red one. What the fuck are you talking about?
It's so
what
dumb.
The fuck are you talking about?
Dumb.
What the hell is this? What is this? What is this? And then you cut to him in a rave, and I'm just like, so you don't want me to watch this movie. You have the trailer opens with them saying, you say tomato, I say tomato. I hate this.
Yeah.
You have to understand, I hate every decision you've made.
And the shocking thing, I think this trailer is worse than the first Let There Be Carnage trailer.
I think it is too.
It's so
this
bad.
is really bad. This is literally, I'm watching this trailer and I'm like, there's nothing here that I like. There's a lot of things that I find deeply confusing.
Yeah.
Why is Chiwetel Ejiofor in this movie? I'm not saying that
Okay,
in
so
the sense of
let's-
I'm not saying in like the sense that he shouldn't be in the movie, but
Let's get into that, because the question I had for you, and the big question I had with this trailer, after No Way Home,
yes.
the end credit scene shows Eddie Brock in a bar in the MCU's universe.
Yes.
And he leaves a part of the Venom symbiote behind as he disappears. Well, in that same bar, Chiwetel Ejiofor's character, whoever he is in this movie, collects that symbiote. Meaning, he's in the MCU.
Yeah.
So is he part of the... What's the time agency again? I can't think of it.
The TVA?
Is he part of the TVA or another agency that travels through universes?
There's this whole thing where the U.S. government doesn't know that these Venom symbiotes exist in the first place. They're like, oh, I guess alien life is real. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Where have you been? How do you get
really,
to here and you're just
you
shocked by this now?
What universe you in?
What is going on? What are the rules? Because this doesn't make any fucking sense. And you get into the minutia of them being crime fighters. You know, you get into them being crime fighters at the beginning of it. And I guess we can just show decapitations in trailers now.
Well, that's the thing. I always had this problem. I had this problem with 2 Feet Closer when we did it.
Yeah.
If you can't do gore, which they can't because it's PG-13, don't bite off people's heads on camera because there's going to be a massive splash of blood when you do that.
Yeah.
Kind of
It
like
looks
Morbius
ridiculous.
when he would bite people in the neck and there would be no blood.
It looks stupid.
It looks so bad.
It looks dumb and stupid, and you look dumb and stupid for doing it.
Yes.
And and then you have the whole thing of like they can't get their catchphrase right, which
Oh,
also
that was-
how is I think it's very telling. I think it's extremely telling that this movie is being promoted as the end of the Venom series.
Yes.
Which, first off, before I get to my actual point, so the whole thing with him being in No Way Home was pointless because he will still never meet Peter.
Yes.
There was no point to that. That whole thing, fully pointless.
And the only point was that he left the symbiote behind in Peter's universe, and you would assume it would find Peter.
Yeah.
Because it was interested in him.
Yeah.
And then you
Which
have
is
the symbiote Spider-Man.
I hate that so much.
Oh, it's terrible.
I hate it so much. That's ass backwards from where you should be. Like, I can't get over. So, anyway, you have this.
Deep breath.
You have this movie, and they are calling it The Last Dance, implying that it's the last Venom movie. How is this movie not called We Are Venom?
I don't.
Like so Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and We Are Venom. That's as straight a line as you're ever gonna get.
Well, this title is as spoon-fed a title as I've ever
It's
seen.
so
because
bad.
It's like, we need people to really understand this is the last Venom. Let's call it Last Dance.
And it has to be fun and stupid. We have
Yeah.
to let people know ahead of time, hey, this is no longer a dark, brooding superhero
Shit
saga.
never was.
Well, but they tried to make it seem like it was for so long, where it's like, oh, this is one of those edgy, darker superhero stories. No, it's not. This is fucking dumb and nothing fucking matters, and you should never fucking care. I just finished the New Game Plus in Spider-Man 2. Again, I've killed that game to death. It is I'm so done in it. Not done playing it. I love playing it, but there's absolutely nothing left for me to do in it. The Venom in that is so much better than this, and it goes way too far. It gets crazy. It blows out the doors with these giant symbiote towers and crazy things where they do the I can't remember the saga. I guess it's the Let There Be Carnage saga, where a bunch of symbiotes rain down on New York City and take over people. So they kind of do that storyline, and it just goes too far. You know, it's crazy, and you're like, I've never seen Venom do this kind of shit before. That's still 10 million times better than this.
Yeah.
Because at least there you get the tone and style of it right. In the very beginning of the trailer, they show that Eddie and Venom are not bonded because they can't tell what the other is thinking. So why the fuck would I care about this movie? It's terrible.
And it's funny, we're talking about it, and even though I'm on a different page on IMDb, that trailer's playing right now.
Yeah.
And there is that scene also that confused the shit out of me, where The army is underwater with Venom, and they're hitting him with tasers.
Yeah,
underwater. I don't think that's how that works.
Talk to Taika Waititi about how the God of Thunder can get tased.
Yeah, but like not just tasing him, using tasers underwater. I don't think
that's not how tasers work.
Yeah, I don't think that's how tasers work. And so I'm watching that like, God, it's so stupid.
Yeah,
and I don't even want to talk about the fucking horse.
Oh my God, the horse thing at the end is just like so. Fuck me, I guess. I come from a world where Eddie can't be without this symbiote for any amount of time because it drives him crazy.
Yeah.
Because he's become so fully bonded with it. It's part of who he is as an individual. So he stopped associating with himself as Eddie Brock, and he had become Venom fully. And then he gets cancer, so now he can't take off the suit for 2 reasons. But sure, have him put it on a horse.
Well, it's the thing now. All 3 movies, at one point, he doesn't have the Venom symbiote after he...
Why? There's a fight scene where he's flying around outside the symbiote.
Yeah, that was
so dumb. What the fuck are you doing?
That was their equivalent of, let's take your mask off during the fight that the MCU does.
What the fuck is this shit, guys?
It's so bad.
It looks terrible. It looks awful. Terrible. We will not be reviewing that movie.
No. We still may or may not do Madam Web, and this is in that same ballpark.
You have this little carrot on a stick, and you're like, oh, Madam Web.
Because there was a point in my life when I would intentionally search out bad movies just to watch a bad movie.
Oh, I'm not blaming you. It very much makes sense.
Yes.
But to me, it's just like, it's a little triggering.
Oh, no, it's definitely triggering. And you know what? That could be why I'm also poking the
bear.
That's exactly why I'm poking the bear. Absolutely.
So anyway, we had that. We did want to touch on the Lara Croft Tomb Raider anime,
which looks really good.
It looks good. It's coming out in October, I think. And
I am curious on what they're going to do rating wise.
Yeah.
I really hope they lean more mature. Maybe not. You don't have to go as far as like Castlevania, but
see, I was going to say this to me felt like very similar in tone to Castlevania. And how the anime and action flows.
It did look very similar.
So now I don't know if it'll be as gory as Castlevania is, but I also don't know that the Lara Croft games have the opportunity to be as gory as a Castlevania, where you have fucking monsters pulling people apart, and then you have the vampires. We haven't even touched on the vampires.
I'm thinking it'd be more like maybe like a Vox Machina, which has gore, but it's not over the top like Castlevania.
The gore is kind of almost comedic at times.
Yeah, and it plays kind of a point.
Yeah. It's meant to set the stage in a realistic form. So when you have a dragon breathing acid over a group of people, you have to have them melt. And
they're gonna melt. Yeah. So I know I mean, so far Netflix has been nailing it with these animated, and they've also announced that they're gonna make. My son is insanely excited. They're going to do an animated Minecraft series.
Oh, yeah?
And he's like, oh, my God. Like, he can't fucking breathe right now. He loves Minecraft. But, I don't know. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. So then we got to talk about Moana 2. So, we came from much different exits from this trailer.
We had different reactions to this one.
So, for me, I see the excitement in my kids, and I think that might have biased me. Because I love the first one so much that I'm very excited to see it, and I like the trailer a lot, even though The Rock has soured on me, so even hearing him as Maui kind of made me cringe a little bit. But I'm very excited to see it just because I love the first one so much that I'm going to give it a lot of space.
Yeah. See, I want to like it. My thing is that, we've been talking about this a lot, it seems like they're just redoing the bits. Yes. And so the bits are all exactly the same, but now Moana has a group of people that she has to protect while they're doing these bits.
Yes.
But the bits are, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same as they were. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to be the movie or if that's just the trailer that they're feeding us. But I came away from this trailer being like, so this is Moana 1. Like, this looks exactly like Moana 1 to the degree where at the end when Maui makes a joke about how the pig wasn't with them on the journey when he really should have been. And me and Kelly are like, yeah, join the fucking club. We all know this. Everybody knows this. It felt so referential that it was like almost this is too far, but almost like a rewriting of the plot of like, oh, this is Moana, but we made all the right decisions this time. So she brings the pig and she has a group of family friends and we're still going to do all the same action set pieces. So it's not going to feel that different. But I want to see what they do before I judge too harshly. between one thing and another, I feel like this trailer needed to tell us a lot more. And the fact that it told us nothing, I'm just like, all right, bold decision, Disney. We're going to see how it goes.
Which they need a hit, because Disney's animated studio and Pixar itself have not had a lot of success lately.
It hasn't been a bountiful fall.
Was panned big time. So it's like, I don't know, man. You got to pull it together.
I don't know. So we'll see.
Speaking of when you don't learn,
from
Transformers versus G.I. Joe, following the end of Rise of the Beast, is happening officially.
It's going on.
They have Michael Bay as a producer.
Well, of course they do. They have to. He's tied to it.
He is, but it's like...
He was a producer on Beasts.
He was, but that bombed too. It's like everything he's done with this franchise has bombed. Get him out of there.
No, I agree.
It's like they got Zack Snyder out of DC. It's like good, because everything he touched turned to poison in that universe. Get fucking Michael Bay out of this universe.
In the same way, while we're talking about that, I also want to note Sony has decided to just fully lean in and say, we're going to use AI to write our movies.
Yeah, which
you think your movies are bad now?
Yeah.
We're going to use AI to write them now, so it's going to be even worse.
Yeah.
And also, Craven is being pushed back so that all of us have time to watch it over Christmas.
Which is the funniest thing I have ever heard.
That's the dumbest thing.
Even if it was something that people were forwarding to.
Which no one is.
Christmas time is really family movies. And
you
have what's going to be a very R-rated shit movie, and you think people are going to see it more than once, even once? You're out of your fucking mind.
It's insane.
With the track record they've had, and then Venom is going to come out before that, and if that bombs...
They're fucking delusional.
They're so dumb.
That's another thing, is that Craven was supposed to come out way before Venom 3. So how is this going, guys?
Because you know damn well Venom 3 bombs.
Yeah.
I still believe that Craven isn't going to come out.
Yeah.
And I think if Venom 3 really bombs, Craven will go either direct to streaming or they won't release it.
I just can't understand a world where Warner Discovery looks at Batgirl and says, this is so bad, we have to write it off for taxes. And Sony looks at Venom 2 and Morbius and Madam Web and Venom 3 and Craven and says, nah. Keep it going.
This is going to be great.
It's going to be amazing.
They're so bad.
People's faces are going to melt. Yeah, that's all I had to say on that.
Okay, so I got to touch on a couple quick things. First off, thanks to you opening your big mouth last week, I started watching Castlevania again. I've gone through 4 episodes of the first season, and goddamn, it's the greatest fucking adaptation ever. It is so good.
It is.
It is so good. And I forgot how short the episodes are, though, because it'll get to the end. I'm like, God damn it, I gotta fast forward. How do I fast forward?
Yeah. No, I will never get over that first episode. That first episode gets you so entrenched so fast.
And it's like, I've never, in my life of watching anything, felt more like sadness towards a villain that literally is murdering everybody, which is Dracula. You feel so fucking bad for him. He's like, I'm finally walking the straight and narrow, and the fucking church kills my wife, and now I gotta fucking kill her.
And the church comes in and says, we're the church, we know what's best.
Oh my God. It was so...
The church comes in and does what the church does.
Yeah.
This is why I hate... Listen, I understand. I'm not sitting here being like, oh, this is why I hate Castlevania, or this is why I hate Catholicism, is because they burned down Dracula's wreck. No. I hate them because this is such a tonally appropriate thing for them to have done.
This would have really happened.
This is 100% would have happened.
Yes.
And probably did happen in other situations where you didn't have a giant monster that could turn the sky black.
Dude, it's so fucking good. And was it Richard Armitage, the guy from The Hobbit who played Thorin Oakenshield? He's so good, and everything is so good, and I fucking love it so much. And I can't stress people, if you have not seen Castlevania on Netflix, fucking watch it.
What are you doing?
It's amazing. And this whole episode's pretty much like the advertisement for Netflix, but this movie is on Netflix. I didn't watch it on Netflix. I watched my burned, illegal Blu-ray that I got from England. The other day, I was going through YouTube, and they brought up Naatu. So I watched it, and I'm like, I gotta watch fucking RRR.
Yeah.
So I watch RRR again, because it's like, it's been a minute. And so I'm like, okay, it's been a while. I had that stretch where I watched it so much that it really had me. And it fucking got me again. God damn it, it's so good! Like, I watched it, I'm like, I fucking love this movie. Like, I just was smiling the whole time, right back in.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
The moment where he goes and finds the guy that broke the picture frame.
Yeah.
It just pulls you right into the movie. Like, especially when he gets full Game of Thrones pinned to the floor. And then he just starts pushing his way back up, and you're just like, God, this guy's incredible.
Because it starts with what is like the traditional Bollywood, Tollywood, okay, he jumped over the fence like he has superpowers, into a fucking realistic brawl.
Yeah.
Where he's getting the shit kicked out of him, but he's also beating the shit out of everyone else. It was so good.
It's so good.
That whole fucking movie is so goddamn good.
It's so good that Kelly's father, who doesn't usually like Bollywood movies, we watched the first half of it with them here when they were visiting, but because it's a 3-hour movie, we ran out of time. They watched it on their own when they got home. So if my father-in-law likes it, you will like it.
Like, I can't stress enough for anyone listening who has not seen this movie, and I know it's tough to get into because it's a 3.5 hour long Indian movie. It's so fucking good. Like, there is, a slight lull in the middle with the whole relationship thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's so good.
Even that, I think, is still good. I
enjoyed it. It was enjoyable.
And, like, I still love, there are just so many moments that are so iconic from that, to me, in my life. Where, like, this year in Rochester, there has been a boom of several animals. I don't know if you've experienced this in your neck of the woods, but we certainly have. There are so many fucking voles and rabbits and snakes.
Oh yeah, we have them in our backyard, tons of them.
And so every time I see a snake on the trail, I go back to that scene where the guy is the friend of Beam has been captured and is being interrogated, and he hears the snake behind him and he catches it, and I just go back to watching that with my buddy and saying, oh, in this part of the world, that's a really bad noise.
That's awesome. It just sounds terrible the way I'm going to say this. The best torture scene I've ever seen, and it's still my favorite part of that movie, was when Ram is torturing Beam, and he starts singing that song. It is a brutally painful scene to watch, but it's such a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And I just watched it again, and I'm just like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
No, it's great. I fucking love it. It's incredible.
So I've gotten on this weird kick. They've been releasing these docu-series. Well, it wasn't a docu-series, but last week I talked about the Raging Rainbow one. Mm-hmm. The only reason I watched this is because, okay, have you ever seen the TikTok dancers? They have like the
Which one?
No, they have. Well, that's the thing. Where it looks like people who are dressed real nice dancing like on piers with people around, and they're doing choreographed dances.
I haven't seen these TikTok dances.
Okay, but it's if you go on Instagram or YouTube, they'll pop up. And one of the main dancers is this woman named Miranda Derrick.
Okay.
And she's this like short-haired blonde woman. And they always do these choreographed dances to mostly older songs. And they're really good dancers. And I've always watched them because I love dancing. I've loved it ever since Singing in the Rain, watching Gene Kelly and all that. Well, there's a documentary out now called Dancing with the Devil, the 7M TikTok Cult. I had no idea what this was.
I can only guess by a title like that.
Miranda Derrick used to be, her name before she got married was Miranda Wilking. And her and her sister Melanie, growing up, I don't think they were twins, but they were like very close in age. Growing up, they were dancers and all that, and then they started like a YouTube TikTok channel, the two of them, where they lived together in a house and they would put up videos and they had fun and doing these little things. Well, Miranda ended up going to LA, and there was this church. This Asian guy created this church that he ended up, his daughter, and I believe his son, ended up getting all these dancers to come to their church. And he said, you become part of our church, and we're going to start a production company, and we'll get you out there onto TikTok, and we'll really, we'll edit your videos, we'll record them for you, and we'll get you out there, and we'll be all rich, and we'll make a fortune. Well, then it started to, all right, well, I don't want you talking to your family, and I don't want you doing this. And everyone's going to be living, we're going to buy these houses that everyone can live in, but you're going to be rooming with people. We're going to tell you who you're going to room with. And people within the church are going to marry other people from within the church. Like, when you dance, we're going to tell you what songs to dance to. and these are the dances you're going to do, and this is how you're going to dress, and blah, 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 blah. And it turned into this, and the people that are really leading this docuseries are Melanie and her parents, Miranda's parents, talking about how they were trying to get her to understand she's in this cult. And she married, her name's Miranda Derrick, because she married a dancer in the cult. It's fucking nutty. And it's like, I have been watching these videos for a couple years now. And now when I see one, I'm like, this is different now.
Yeah.
It is really, and the sad thing is, you see some of these interviews or some of these videos that the dancers are posting where they're like, listen, it's not true and all this and that. But then you have these ones that got out and they're saying, he's telling them, like there was a point where some of the dancers had not seen their parents or talked to them or answered phone calls in like 6 months or a year. And he's like, listen, we're getting a lot of heat now. And there's an audio recording of this pastor saying, listen, we're getting a lot of heat. I think we were wrong by saying, I want you to contact them because we need to infiltrate what they're doing. And so these people are getting back in touch with their parents and creating these relationships with the parents to get them to stop looking into the cult.
Jesus Christ.
It's insane. But I'm watching this like, fuck, this is crazy. And once again, if you've watched, it's usually in like YouTube shorts or on Instagram, they have the little shorts. If you see like 2 or 3 people, usually young, usually really attractive, dressed nice, just like breaking out into these choreographed dance numbers like on a busy street or on a pier with people behind them, you know, just out of the blue, just breaking into these really elaborate dances. And they're fucking phenomenal dancers. That's what this fucking cult is. And it's insane.
It's the amount of cults. I don't know if it's
crazy.
I don't know if it's just one of those things where the internet has made it more accessible, so you hear about them more. But it feels like there's so many fucking cults.
So many.
And like I also throw groups like Scientology and Mormons in with that. Like seriously, you guys are in cults. You gotta know.
And it's like that's the scariest thing. Like now once again, I'm not going to turn this into a religious bashing thing, but you and I have our opinions on that.
Oh well, I go back to my Castlevania notes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. But it's like this is when people say I don't see the harm that it does.
This is the harm it does.
This is the harm it does.
Yeah,
because there, like you said, there are millions of people in cults like this that the guy that's running it, and it's typically a guy running it, is fleecing them because they show this guy. He has so much fucking money because of course he's not giving all the dancers the money they're making. He's giving them like barely anything. And then he opened all of these different businesses and made the dancers, like one of them, the sister, she worked at, it was like a frozen yogurt place this guy opened. She made $100 a week.
What?
Working 40 hours.
No.
At this thing because she was part. You know, he said, well, you're living in this house, and we're giving you food. And
so you don't need this other stuff.
Don't need this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
But this is the thing that kills me. It's like somebody smoking nowadays not knowing that it causes harm. It's like going into these things, you should fucking know better.
Anybody who tells you they have all the answers, then they know
they never have
they
answers.
Don't have the answers. They have the answers to control you, to make you think things a certain way or believe things the way they want you to believe them. They do not have the answers.
And if you have millions upon millions of followers on social media, but you're broke, that doesn't happen. Yeah. You should have quite a bit of money. So the people that have, 5-6 million followers on YouTube or Instagram, they make a shit ton of money off of sponsorship.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, you should be making some fucking money. And so it's frustrating. But it was really interesting and it was really aggravating.
Yeah.
Listening to these dancers like try to stand up for they're reading like Bible passages that made no fucking sense to what they were trying to talk, and they're like, well, do you see? It says it right there. And it's like, it was
anything to justify what they're doing.
If you want, so I'm saying to anyone listening, if you want to watch something that's fascinating but also as infuriating as can be, it's this fucking thing.
Added to the pile, there's like 3 or 4 documentaries I've heard about just this year.
Yeah.
That fit that category.
Yeah.
of just like, oh, do you want your heart to hurt and be angry at the state of the
That's
world?
what's funny is last week I was saying how much of a breath of fresh air that the Reading Rainbow
I know,
and I go right into this one afterwards. I'm like, fuck, man.
Get back in the mud.
It's like there was a South Park that made fun of the adults watching like real crime shows because they called it murder porn, and it's like, this is kind of like
there is definitely something about that.
I can't turn away from the negative ones.
There is something to that in the water of just like the way that at least our generations approach things. If we have something that like, it almost feels like if we have a finger on the ball, then it becomes this thing that we need to know about.
Yeah.
So if you've watched any episodes of all that, now you need to know what's going on with all of that.
It's like when we watch like Spotlight or The Big Short. We know the story behind it.
Yeah.
We're watching this because it's going to make us fucking mad.
Well, and in a lot of cases, we don't know the story behind it.
We know the basic story, but not the detail.
We know something.
Yes.
We know something, but now as we get more and more information...
But we have a feeling we're going to get really fucking mad watching it. And those are great movies, but they piss me right the fuck off.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing as heartbreaking as watching Spotlight, and when you get to them being just about ready to publish, and then 9/11 happens.
Yeah.
And they have to throw everything on brakes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, God damn it.
What do we run with?
Motherfucker.
A terrorist attack or children getting raped by clergymen? It's like, fuck.
Jesus Christ.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, so that's what I'm going to end this glorious
wonderful
read.
How fun and friendly free.
But I want you to look out for them. So when you're flipping through social media, if you come across one and you see these people dancing, know that is a very brainwashed cult that they're dancing.
Yeah, this is always the thing. Is like there's so many people like that online.
Yeah,
where I'll be like, oh, I love this creator. They do this and they do this, and they're so cool and they're so incredible with what they make. And then you find out, oh, they're in a cult.
Yeah. It's fucking nuts.
It's like finding out. Nuts. It was like finding out that Elizabeth Moss, star of *Handmaid's Tale*, is a Scientologist, and you're just like, what? How?
I don't get that.
How?
I don't get that.
Tom Cruise, I get. This.
I don't. Okay, and this is going to sound terrible. I don't understand how anyone is a Mormon or a Scientologist.
I don't.
Too recent a religion where you can actually look at the founders and be like, both of these men were convicted con men. It's like, come on now.
Anybody who follows a religion that can get trashed that easily by South Park,
dude,
right?
That Mormon one was the best.
Both of them.
Yeah, the Scientology one was great, but the Mormon one was one of the best.
Like, it's just incredible. Yeah. And when anytime South Park doesn't have to write jokes, they just have to tell you what these people honestly believe.
The Scientology one where they kept flashing, this is
honestly what they think is true. We are not making this up.
Oh.
This is not a joke.
It's like brilliance.
The Mormon one had a whole jingle that went with it. That was it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
let's move on to something good.
Yes.
Godzilla Minus One.
Yes.
Very, very, very anticipated by both of us. We have been dying, and I think it was just last week. I'm like, when are they going to put this shit on streaming?
We can't. Well, because like there was at one point there was a plan. We came up with a plan, which is always a great thing to do.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Which was, I still think it was a great plan. Which was that we were going to review this instead of Kong versus Godzilla 2.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's great. Unfortunately, it's not available to watch anywhere. Yeah. So I guess Netflix kept the door closed until Friday.
I mean, it's kind of a big deal for Netflix to get this before any of the pay-per-view or any of the streaming.
It dropped on Netflix at the same time as it became available on streaming services to buy.
Which is crazy.
That's insane. That's crazy pants. It's huge.
I can't imagine how much they had to pay to get that.
No, this is what I'm saying, is I think that Netflix paid an arm and a leg to keep that door closed.
Can you imagine the viewership that they got off of this shit?
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, I was almost started crying. I was so happy.
Yeah.
Because I've been waiting to see this fucking movie.
Oh, we all have. Like, I remember watching people's reaction in theaters, because this was the movie that came out, and a lot of creators that I follow had reactions like, nah, fuck Oppenheimer. This is the anti-war movie of the century. And then it just wasn't available to watch anywhere.
Yeah.
For the longest time.
And I'm going to say this, and this is not overstated because I've really thought about this movie. I watched it Saturday night, so I've had 2 days to really think about it. This is an A+ to me. There's only one part that I didn't like, and we'll talk about that.
We'll get there. Because it's literally the very end of the movie.
Yes. And I think this is the greatest monster movie ever made.
I can definitely see that.
Because not only is it a great monster movie, but unlike other monster movies, and I'm including like Pacific Rim in this, the human story is so fucking good.
It's incredible. I've never seen a human story like this.
Never even close.
This is one of those movies like RRR where we don't watch it the year that it came out, and then we spend the next year talking about how incredible that movie was. Because I can totally see us doing that with this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Of just like even if you're, you know, as far away from it as it could be, where this is a movie about people in Japan post World War II, and we're the people that put them in that position.
Because the movie literally starts like the last day of World War II.
Yeah.
Like it's the last.
It's the end of the war.
Yeah.
It's the end of the war. And just there were so many incredible, powerful moments. The fact that this movie isn't just about anti-war and all these other things. The fact that this movie is maybe the greatest portrayal of PTSD I've seen in a movie, maybe ever.
Yeah.
Like where he is just... Koichi. So Koichi has several breakdowns during the movie where he is just fully... He can't tell what's real and what's not real anymore. And he keeps on thinking, like, maybe I am dead. Maybe I am dead, and this is just some weird dream that I'm having, and I am dead, and that none of this is real, and that I finally died, and I don't have to deal with any of that. And then he's just brought right back to reality. But, like, it is so heartbreaking to watch his story unfold.
Oh, my God.
Where you're just like, Jesus Christ.
And it's like, it's not just anti-war, it's anti the whole Japanese honor thing.
Yeah.
Because he's a kamikaze pilot that doesn't want to die.
Yeah.
So he pretty much chickens out of it in the beginning, and that we get our first Godzilla appearance. But it's like him kind of at first dealing with the shame.
Yeah.
Because who is it? His aunt? I can't remember who the woman is.
It's his neighbor,
It's his neighbor, but she kind of is like an aunt figure.
Yeah, she's like this neighbor that they were friendly with. They clearly knew each other, and everybody knew that he was a kamikaze pilot.
Yeah. And so when he shows back up, she's like, "You dishonored everybody."
She's so angry. She's so mad at him.
But he's like, and it's like, it's so stupid.
And he has that whole thing where he, at the beginning of the movie, it begins with him landing on this little podunk island and meeting Tachibana, who's going to be a bigger player later on.
Yeah, really good Tachibana.
And, the mechanics are going through his plane. He's like, I have mechanical problems. Mechanics are going through the plane. They're like, everything's fine. And Tachibana's like, so, you want to talk about it? Because nothing's wrong with the plane. So I just got to ask. And I think he says something along the lines of, there's no point in going out and having people die anymore. The war is over.
Yeah.
Like, so he's not shaming Koichi for doing this. He's like understanding, except that then Godzilla attacks and shit goes down for real.
That's where the shame part comes in, because he has an opportunity to shoot at Godzilla with the guns on the plane, which are much stronger than the guns they have. And he kind of chickens out again.
Yeah.
But, part of it, though, it's kind of the same as the kamikaze, where he's like, I don't think it's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
Because we're shooting him and nothing is affecting
Nothing's going to happen, yeah. Look, have you seen how big he is?
Yeah.
And
so it's kind of the same. Yeah. But, man, I got to say, and this isn't a shot at the movie, I think this movie will be a lot better once, kind of same as RRR, once I see it in its original version with subtitles.
See, that's how we watched it.
I watched the dubbing version. I watched the dub version, and the American dubbing, not great.
Yeah.
But it's like I've watched enough bad dubbed movies where I still enjoyed them that I could see past that and just see what the movie is in general.
Yeah.
I need to watch. And after watching it, I'm like, okay, but at least I can tell people, watch the narrator. Don't watch the dub version.
No, it's an incredibly powerful story.
Yeah.
and the acting by everybody is so good. And so you just have this unfolding story. I did have a few moments of confusion at the beginning because he's on this island and there's no way off the island, and then cut to him getting off the island and he's sailing and somebody hands him a stack of photos. It turns out it's Tachibana. But I all that kind of moved past me. I had a hard time recognizing all the faces. And so he gets home and he, turns out Tokyo was firebombed. And there's no home anymore. Yeah. And everything's destroyed. Watching the people of Tokyo moving around trying to rebuild their lives is so just gut-wrenching.
And I mean, even over the period that this movie takes, they don't really clean up a lot around because there's so much destruction that they're kind of building around the destruction.
They're kind of building in the destruction.
Yeah, building in the destruction, which is...
And it's just insane watching how these people are trying to rebuild their lives. Yes. And just, again, as an American, just being like, God, I hate war. I fucking hate war. I know,
it's fucking bad. I do have to say, I am still very impressed for what they put on the screen for, I think it was $14 million, that it was the budget of this film. It was under $20 million, I know that. There were a couple points, but it's same as RRR, where it's like, okay, I know the animals are all CGI. And so even the, ones that are like, oh, okay, it's kind of a little bit of a rough CGI with that one. Like in the beginning when the plane's landing, it's noticeable that it's on a green screen. But it was one of those things where I'm like, okay, but I know that this movie didn't have a huge budget, and so I can look past that.
See, I had that moment with the plane at the end of the movie when he's soaring around and he looks out at the countryside. I was like, oh, this is definitely green screen. Yeah. But one thing that I do want to point out that I think is incredible about this movie is that it was written and directed and the special effects were headed by one guy. And so this is all his baby.
Takashi Yamazaki?
Yes. And so he does an incredible job. The CGI in this movie,
Godzilla's unbelievable.
We were talking about Shin Godzilla before. Some of the CGI in Shin Godzilla is a little touch and go. There were a few moments there where it was like miniatures probably would have been better. This probably would have looked better if you just did miniatures. I don't know what your production was on this. I don't know why you decided to do it this way, but these helicopters do not look Compton well. Whereas here in Minus One, the CGI is so incredible. When we get to the minesweeper boats and that the battle on the boats, oh my God.
When it attacked that first boat.
Oh my God. Just like, and the way that the story unfolds as they're figuring out what's going on and what's happening. And then, Koichi gets this new job and it pays really, really well. Oh, we should also mention that Koichi has a girlfriend that's not a girlfriend and a baby that's not a baby.
Sumiko is the girlfriend-ish wifey.
Yes. And then they have a baby, Akiko.
Yes.
But the baby is not either of theirs. This is just post-war trauma.
Yeah, Sumiko found the baby as the baby's mother was dying.
Yeah.
And said, watch this baby. And Sumiko said, well, I kind of feel like I need to.
And then I do love the moment where they meet, where she just pushes the baby into his arms.
Yes. Because she's getting chased by
someone.
Somebody, yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what to do with this baby. And he thinks about leaving it. And then he decides to carry it around. And then he runs into her. And she's like, where were you?
I've been waiting.
I was going to come and get the baby.
Yeah, no, that was great. And I do love that. Because, that was such a well-done love story, because you could tell that throughout these, I'm guessing it was, maybe a couple years by just the growth of the child.
I think it takes place over the course of 2 years.
Yeah. They built this, it was pretty much a marriage without physical love.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful. And I love how she's when she gets her job and she goes, I'm so proud because I've always wanted to be independent, but I appreciate what you do for me and I'm just going to be able to help us more.
And he's like, don't I bring home enough money?
Yes.
Why do you have to have a job?
Yes. And it was great.
And she's like, because I want one. I want to be independent. I don't want to be, subjugated to your money. I want to be able to have my own life.
Which for the time, the 40s and the 50s,
it's huge.
Like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
This is what was going on around the world at that time.
So just I love that dynamic of their whole house. And then when we meet Koichi's coworkers and they start coming home for dinner, that is just so beautiful in the kind of quaint pleasantness of just these like 6 people just kind of hanging out and having dinner.
The coworkers are awesome. I know one of them, Noda, is the scientist guy. Mm-hmm. The other 2,
they just referred to them as Captain and the Kid.
Yeah, which I think the captain is Saiji. Mm-hmm. The kid, I couldn't tell you the kid's name.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, they are great because they're comic relief, but they're not goofy. You know, they have they're lighter, like their moments are lighter.
Yeah.
And especially with the kid, it's a little silly, but they're not like over the top bumbling idiots. And I love that about it because it's like, okay, so you can have comic relief without it being just dumb.
I should make a correction. Noriko is the girlfriend. Sumiko is the neighbor.
Oh, that's right. Sumiko is the neighbor.
Sumiko is the neighbor. Noriko.
I'm trying to read.
I know.
On IMDb, it has the voice actors and.
I know. It's making me crazy. I'm going down the list, and I have to keep doubling back and being like, who, what?
Okay, so the first Godzilla fight.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
It's incredible. The one on the island.
The one on the island.
Yeah.
Which is literally, and I think that was smart of them because there is a long patch where they build the story of the relationships, and they're like, all right, so right off the bat, you're going to get some basic character introduction, and then you're going to get fucking Godzilla.
They learned from the 2015 Godzilla.
Yeah,
they were like, we're not going to Bryan Cranston you through the beginning of this movie, only to have it turn out to be an Aaron Taylor Johnson movie.
Oh my god, it's so fucking awesome. When they're like, get a light on that, and you fucking see him, you're like, oh!
You see him, and then he immediately kills somebody, and you're like, oh shit.
Dude.
And just like, the ones that got me were the Chomp and Hurl.
Yeah, he doesn't eat him.
He doesn't hurt, he just, bam, whee!
Yeah.
And then the tail just slamming down on a group of men. And you're just like, oh my god.
It was fucking awesome.
And that's before he mutates. That's just Godzilla in his regular form.
Yeah, because he mutates after the attack.
There's some kind of Bikini Atoll issue where...
It was the first American nuke, which I think every Godzilla movie says that's the start of Godzilla.
Yeah. And so, but then he starts turning into the big
he turns
monster.
into Deadpool.
He does.
It's Deadpool Godzilla.
He has an incredible healing factor, which I love.
Going into the final end credit scene, he pretty much regenerates from a mound of flesh.
Yeah, and which he's going to.
Oh yeah.
It just takes enough. Yeah. You just have to have enough cells to have. In different worlds it works different ways. Sometimes it depends on where the cells come from. Mm-hmm. Some worlds it has to be like a brain cell or a specific cell that can grow, and that's where the mutation actually generates from. In other words, you have a drop of blood, you can regrow a Wolverine or a Deadpool.
Yeah.
So I really love the way that they did the regen in this too.
Especially like that scene where later in the movie he gets the mine in his mouth and it blows that hole in his jaw and then it just slowly grows back.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh,
well, and you have that great moment where everybody's like, we did it. I think we did it. I think it's okay. And
no, you just made him mad.
No.
He's kind of like the Hulk. Okay, you hurt him, but by hurting him, you made him really mad.
I love that sequence where
so good.
I love them on the mining boat. I love that whole lead up.
That first sequence in the water, it was very Jaws.
I was going to say, it is so Jaws. It is right out of Jaws.
It's like thinking about the second Godzilla, what was it, Godzilla Kong, the very first Godzilla Kong movie, when they had that battle in the water, and I didn't like it because I thought it was stupid. This is it done right.
Yeah.
Because it's like...
Well, because you don't have King Kong on a
exactly.
battleship.
But like the Godzilla part, it's like, I love how they show him under the water. It's fucking awesome. And then him coming up and... Like, you just see his head and his spines mostly. Well,
that shot where he swims under a boat, that is just such an incredible shot. Awesome. It's so good. But I also just love the plot of this. It's not just a fight scene like the Meg. Like you're watching the Meg and it's just, a big shark. And then second big shark, which I will never get over. That's so stupid to me. Oh, yeah. You killed the first big shark, but there were two. But anyway, I love that they have this whole moment where they're like, okay, we have new orders from the government. We're going to go do this one job. Okay, we're going to go do it. And then they find this destroyed battleship. And they're like, and
then the fish start bubbling up.
And then the fish start bubbling up. And Koichi's like, we are out of time.
Yes.
It is time. It is here. It's happening now. And just like, I love that Captain has that moment of like, no, we're going to do it. Because not only was a job given to us, and fuck the government for giving it to us. I agree with you all. Fuck the government for putting us in this situation. But somebody's got to do it, so it's going to be us. And then Godzilla, and he's like, okay, maybe not.
I think the battleship can take care of this.
But like they do accomplish the mission.
Yeah.
They do get to delay Godzilla until the battleship shows up, and it's just such a well done scene that leaves you really just being like, oh my god, this is incredible.
And I'm trying to remember, that's the first time we see the fire breath, isn't it, in that scene?
Yes, because that's when he shoots it through the boat and blows up the boat.
And I love the fact that his fire breath in this movie is a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
That is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It looked so cool.
Yeah.
Because, like, you watch this new one, it's like a laser blast.
Yeah.
And the American ones. But this, it's like, no, this dude's fucking nuclear. So his fire breath is literally a nuclear explosion.
Well, and I love that it takes time to build up.
He has to regenerate
and just it affects the way the spikes pop out, and just like you see it trailing up as it gets closer to his mouth, and you're like, oh, this is going to be bad. But I love the first time we see it that it has like the opposite of like an alien abduction effect, where it comes out from under the water.
Yes!
And the boat is just gone.
Yeah, it's like, oh, did we get it? Boom! Oh, shit.
Oh, I don't think we got it.
Oh, my God. So fucking good.
No,
so fucking
I
good.
love this movie. I love the second act of this movie has so much heart, because this is where we start getting into the PSD stuff.
Big time.
And we also have the whole thing with Noriko happen.
Yeah. Where
Noriko has gotten a job and she's working on Ginza and she is doing her own thing, and then Godzilla attacks Ginza. That sequence is crazy.
And this led to what ends up being my least favorite part.
Yeah.
Which, spoilers right here, everyone. This is a spoiler. I'm throwing out a spoiler right here. This heart-wrenching scene where he shows up to save her.
Well, first you have this sequence where it's just about her trying to get out of Godzilla's path.
Yes.
So she's on the train, and then Godzilla comes over and takes the whole train.
And she's
and
hanging.
she's just trying not to fall out of this train. She gets over water. I'm like, go now. You gotta go now. But she lands in the water. Train's coming down. You gotta get out of the water, man. What are you doing in the water?
It was so good.
Just the moment when she's running with the crowd and she just stops and just looks at Godzilla
like
coming,
shell-shocked.
and she's just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't get out of here. There's no getting away from this. And Koichi comes and takes her hand and runs her, and they're standing next to an alleyway, and me and Kelly are just like, go down the alley!
And then Godzilla fires his nuclear breath, setting off a nuclear explosion, and she pushes him in the alleyway and sacrifices herself to save him.
She gets Galadriel'd.
And that was my only negative of this movie, because once again, spoiler.
She does literally get Galadriel.
She literally gets Galadriel because she ends up being alive and in a really good shape.
Relatively fine.
And it's like, that's the only negative, because a lot of the heart of that second and third act that you were talking about stems from her sacrifice.
It's Koichi's at his lowest.
Yes, because he's really a single father.
He's fully broken at this point. The woman that was helping him with his PTSD, who was kind of this anchor point for him, is gone. This monster keeps on attacking.
Oh, and then when the baby says, oh, can I see mommy now?
Where's mommy?
Oh, my God.
And he's, he had an opportunity in his mind to stop Godzilla, and he didn't take it, and there's just more lives that are cost because of this, and he is just broken. And then you have Captain being like, why didn't you marry her? And him being like, because I'm still at war.
Yeah.
I can't marry her if I'm still at war.
And after the funeral, when he's and they're all like trying to console the baby, and he goes off on his own, he kneels and sees all the pictures.
And he's like, I can't be
of
happy.
The dead sailors from the beginning, and he's like,
you're punishing me because I wanted to be alive. Oh my God. I finally wanted to live. I finally wanted to have a life, and now you're just punishing me for having that feeling. And it's just so gut wrenching. Yeah. This is a movie. I took a class at Purchase that was a cinema of trauma. What was it? It was something in trauma, but it basically was just films about traumatic events. And so we watched Hiroshima Mon Amour, and we watched Night and Fog, and we watched so many. It was heavy duty.
Sounds like a very happy class.
It was heavy duty, Doc. Quick aside, my favorite thing about this class was it reminds me of that John Mulaney joke about getting a passing grade because you said that Emily Dickinson is probably gay. It's like, oh yeah, B+. Basically, you could say at any point, because we had to write weekly essays for this based on whatever movie we had watched that week. So you could basically just go in and say, yeah, trauma's really bad, and the way that's captured on film is really different depending on who the person capturing it is. B+. Yeah. But anyway, this is a movie that I could see being taught in trauma class, because
oh my God,
this is all about the trauma of so many things. It's not just about post-war Japan. That's the overview of the whole thing. That's the cloud that lurks over the whole of the movie. This is about the trauma of the people involved, the trauma of the citizenry of Japan, being just a Japanese citizen at this time, the trauma of the culture, the trauma of losing people, of blaming yourself for deaths that aren't your fault, and being unable to stop a situation that just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. And it's just this incredible, I don't want to call it a pile, but it's an incredible pile of really great things that as you're digging through, you're just like, oh my God, look at all this shit. And then on top of it, the filmmaking is incredible.
Oh, it's so amazing.
And Godzilla's here.
I know, seriously. And that's the great thing about this movie, is it's unlike other monster movies. This is a great dramatic movie with Godzilla in it.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around.
Well, it's so of itself. It knows so much about what it wants to be. The moment they have a newscaster and a full news team
on top of the
building recording Godzilla attacking, and I'm just thinking back to the Americanized version of the original Godzilla where they put in, I think it's Raymond Burr.
Yeah.
They stick him in as an American reporter who's just watching Godzilla attack to kind of give flavor to the American audience that they can kind of latch onto. It's almost referential here of just like you have a whole news crew trying to the moment where he walks past and is like, oh, Godzilla's coming right for us. I'm like, maybe fuck it off the roof.
It was so good. It was so good. And so going into the third act, they come up with a plan to stop Godzilla, and part of the plan that they figure they might need is a distraction, which is Koshi flying around Godzilla to distract him and to lure him into this trap. But they only had one plane left, and it needed a mechanic, so he refused any mechanic other than Tachibana.
Well, they kept on saying that they couldn't find another mechanic.
Yes, and he's like, I know of one,
I know
and
a
it's
guy
gotta
who can
be
do
this
it.
guy.
Well, and it seemed like, because this is an experimental plane. Yeah. This isn't, I guess what they say is that it was going to be the end of the war. There were like a dozen of them made. All of them were going to just be land-based in case the U.S. came and did a ground assault. So they kept a bunch of them on land, but they didn't upkeep them once the war ended, and this is like 2 years after the war. So there's really only one of them that still works, and it really needs a lot of work. And I know a guy. I know a guy who knows how to fix this kind of shit.
And the way he lures Tachibana
it's so good.
It's so fucked up. Like, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of fucked up, because he's sending these letters out, and you're like, oh, I wonder if he's just like, listen, we need you. No, he's not saying that.
Yeah. No, it's incredible when he goes to the post office and he's just begging the guy.
Yeah.
Like, just tell me anywhere that you know this guy lived. I just need anything to start.
Or like where his unit was from or something.
Anything. Give me anything. Yeah. And so he just starts sending out these letters, and Tachibana shows up, and I love that moment. It's so, you've seen this in so many animes where the guy's like, hey, you're here. Punch. Because in the letter, what the tactic that he took was, I gotta piss this guy off so much that he'll come find me.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go find him. I'm just gonna piss him off so bad that he finds me. Hey, your fault.
Yes.
It's your fault.
Everything on the island was your fault. And it's like, just that whole scene, it's like, holy fuck. Like, you realize, when I first realized that's what he wrote, I was like, God,
Jesus, God.
Like, no shit this guy found you. Because he blamed you so bad that he was, like, going to kill you on that boat in the beginning. Like, that look he gave him was a death stare. And then he's going to say, you're the one that caused it. Like, fucking hey. But then he finally, he talks him into it, and Tachibana shows up, and him and his crew, cleans himself up.
I love that whole sequence, because it becomes this thing where Koichi is like, listen, he almost has a Zuko from Avatar arc.
Yes.
This is how I reclaim my honor. I I'm turning this into a suicide mission, man. There's a plan. We have a whole plan. I'm going to do the plan. Mark my words. If I get the opportunity, I'm going in. Yeah. You put as many high caliber bombs in this plane as you can fit. Take out any machine guns you have to. I'll just have the baseline minimum of machine guns, and then you put in some heavy duty bombs, and I'm gonna fly it into Godzilla and blow him up. And I love Tachibana's reaction to the whole thing. And the way that the filmmaking is built, I'm going to spoil this a little bit, but the filmmaking is built in this way where they're working on the plane, they're going back and forth, and then on the last day, Tachibana is going through and he's like, okay, so you have this many shells, you have this many bombs, you have this, and this is how fast you're going to be able to go. This is here, you have to pull this when you want the bombs to go off, because otherwise there's going to be a safety on them, so make sure you pull this right as you're going into the creature's mouth. And then he's like, oh, and let me show you this other thing. Cut two. and so you're sitting there like, what's going to happen? And Tachibana made him install an ejector seat so he could be like, listen, this is not about you dying, man. Yes. This is about you living. The whole point of this is that people are dying.
Which goes more death isn't going to help. Where he didn't want him to die. He wanted him to attack Godzilla with the weapon they had. And he, like you said, he was on his side about the anti-kamikaze, and here it's just reaffirming that, him saying, listen, you're gonna do what you didn't do in the beginning, so you don't have to fucking die to do it.
Yeah.
Great.
It was so good.
It was so good.
Just that speech he gives him, where he's like, listen, this has never been about you wanting to die or you dying to honor those who died because of your actions. This is about you living because they died. Yeah. And you have to remember why you're still alive.
Yes.
But you better fucking live. And I just love everything about that. And then you have this incredible military sequence with this faux navy made up of civilians.
Yeah, the tugboats.
And they reference the original Godzilla. It's not an oxygen bomb, but it's very similar in its structure.
But I love how they just kind of like Shin Godzilla, they misjudge when Godzilla is going to potentially come on land. And then he comes on land, and they're like, oh, fuck.
Oh,
Did we miss our opportunity?
He's already here. What do you mean he's here?
It's like, goddamn, he showed up fast.
And then Koichi flies by, and they're like, no, we got a chance. We're going to take it.
That plane was fucking awesome,
That plane was so cool.
That was goddamn
That was just an incredibly cool plane to look at. I love planes. It must be something in my blood, because my grandfather loved planes, my brothers love planes, I love planes. And that is just a fucking cool ass plane with the propeller on the back. There was a moment where I was like, but how does it turn without a tail? And then I saw that it has the rudders on the wings, and I was just like, God, this is a cool plane.
Cool. And that whole sequence was fucking awesome.
Oh, it's so good.
It was so good.
And we were talking about there's a lot of CGI in this movie. I say that I could see that it was CGI in this sequence, not in a bad way.
Yes, exactly.
The CGI looks really good.
It's like, I think people who aren't as in depth with movies as you and I are, as far as the experience we've had with them, wouldn't notice it.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think, wow, they really flew a plane.
Yes.
And you're like, no, they couldn't have. But man, that's some really good CGI.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
And just like such good filmmaking, top to bottom. This makes me want to see Marvel actually commit to having an artist make a movie, because it takes me back to Edgar Wright's Ant-Man.
Yeah.
There was a very specific vision. Edgar Wright is meticulous when he's directing a movie. He knows exactly how he wants everything to look and feel and sound and move. So he was going to have a ton of input on how everything was going to go, to the point where Marvel was like, nah, I can't deal with this anymore. And he was like, well, then fuck you guys. I can't deal with you guys anymore. I'm gone. This is that same situation, but you just keep going. You don't question the artist. You say, no, the artist has a vision. We're here to support the artist's vision. You go out and you do it.
Yeah.
The fact that the guy who directed the movie also did the VFX for the movie, that's enormous. Yeah. I've never heard of that before, and I really want to see it done more often, because I'm so tired of situations like The Flash, where the movie is rushed, the VFX guys are not given enough time to complete their job, and then the director comes out with some half-baked bullshit reason why the CGI looks the way it does. And you're just like, or you could just have the director be in charge of the CGI, so it's just as much a part of the baby as everything else.
And that's the thing I'm nervous about, because this has become such a worldwide phenomenon that I don't want this guy to say to the first person that says, we're going to give you $200 million to make this movie, for him to jump on it. It's like, I think part of why this movie worked is it was restricted with the budget.
Yeah.
And they had to use actual filmmaking techniques instead of saying, we're going to take care of it in post.
Yeah.
With CGI.
That's always the case.
Yes.
Is I've heard this from so many people in the industry. Having a smaller budget is good in a lot of ways because it makes it so that you have to come up with creative solutions to problems, which often involves filmmaking decisions, such as not having the shark in the first 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Jaws now? You don't have to, because it's any of the later stage Jaws movies where it's just shark all the time. Shark, 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 shark.
Well, let's two best examples, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, $100 million budget per movie. They had to use all these techniques to make it work. Hobbit, they had double the budget per movie, if not more.
And they made
Ian
McKellen cry.
And they over-CGI'd them.
Yeah.
They over-CGI'd the shit out of them. And it's like, that's your example. It's like, if you have the less budget, you have to use a fucking gymnasium in a local rec center to build the wall that Frodo and Sam crawl up with Gollum.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to do shit like that, and it works.
You have to figure out the lighting. You have to figure out the camera movements. You have to figure out the best way to do this so that it doesn't look bad.
Exactly.
And it just...
The forced perspective with Gandalf and Frodo in the beginning in the kitchen and when he's pouring his tea. It's like, they're in the same room and there's no CGI. It's just fucking camera tricks.
Yeah. So many filmmakers these days, and well, not even filmmakers, studios, so many studios need to learn from the bad CGI of the 90s.
Yes.
I'm looking at you, Blade. The fastest way to make a movie terrible is to have a big CGI thing that has to work and not have it work.
Yeah.
So find a way to not have the big CGI thing unless you have to. As somebody whose scripts, you know this, are way too ambitious for my ability to actually make.
Hey, 5-hour movies happen.
I'm just saying.
They just happen.
I will never get over the idea where I came to you after class and I was like, so I had an idea for a movie, but we would have to flood a room. And you were like, how would we do that? And I was like, I don't know.
Well, and I still to this day wish I would have won that argument on 2 Feet Closer when we filmed it. Where I'm like, we cannot show the gore because we cannot do it properly. Halloween, the first Halloween movie, they didn't show any gore because they had no budget to do it.
Yeah.
And goddamn, the gore sucked when we had it smelled so bad with the goddamn ground beef and fake blood. Oh, it was terrible.
God.
Terrible.
I still feel terrible that your basement got just ground beef.
Oh, it wasn't my basement. I don't give a fuck.
Well, you were renting it.
That was right, yeah.
Yeah.
But and that's my concern with movies like this going forward. I hope this becomes, especially now seeing, I watched on Watch Mojo, they had a top 10 of movies that lost money this year. And it's movies that you thought made money, but no, because their budgets were so
huge.
fucking big.
Yeah.
And it's like, I really want Hollywood to look at that, and like even the Marvel movies, and go, look at Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I mean, it had some CGI, but a lot of practical effects were used in that movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, that movie was great, and it was mostly practical effects.
Yeah. Disney, the reason Disney is in such a hole is because everything they make is such big budget and then never makes its budget back. And so even if you have a movie that does moderately well because the budget was so high to begin with, it's not going to make that budget back. And then you have situations like Ant-Man Quantumania, where you have this enormous budget, bad CGI, doesn't work, bad story, bad plot, bad acting, bad directing. Yeah. And it's just, you're just left being like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Or I'm still angry about Fire and Ice, or what? Not Fire and Ice. Elemental. I still find that to be such a swing and a miss, because there were so many moments in that movie that I really liked conceptually. Yeah. And then the writing and the acting and the directing was bad. Yeah. And just frustrating. Why is there a giant tower of water that comes gushing through Firetown when that could kill anybody in Firetown? Like, I get it. You want it to be about it being a slum. I get it. But, like, this is insane. I feel like you guys need to reel it in. Or why did Wade's father have this big family if Wade is like his mom, and he and Wade did not get along to the point where Wade's dad leaves.
Yeah.
I was just like...
It's weird. Like, the whole... Yeah, and like you're saying, it's this trend that not only Disney, but look at all the Sony ones we were talking about. They had huge budgets. Madam Web was on that list I was talking about. Because it has a crazy huge budget. You look at Venom 3, that fucker's got to be a $250 easy.
Easy. Look at all the CGI they have.
Exactly.
You have multiple full CGI characters fighting full CGI characters.
I'm hoping the only reason Tom Hardy is doing a third one of these, because he's lost some of my respect over these 3 movies, is because they just threw so much fucking money at him to do it.
I'm telling you, this is Spider-Man 3 all over again.
Yeah.
This is a bunch of people who are in too deep. You couldn't even bring back Michelle Williams. That's how bad it was.
She wised up finally for the fucking third one.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I love this movie. I'm so happy it's on Netflix so everyone can see it.
Godzilla Minus One, not Venom.
Yeah, Godzilla Minus One. No, Venom sucks.
Not Venom.
Venom sucks. Everything else we talked about sucked as far as Disney movies.
Yeah.
Godzilla Minus One.
Yes.
Fantastic movie.
I love this movie.
I cannot recommend it more.
I really want to watch it. They have a Godzilla Minus One minus color. So it's just in black and white. I want to watch that. That's on Vudu right now. It's $15. I haven't invested in it, but I'm thinking about it.
I'm assuming they're going to put out like a 4K Blu-ray of this. I'm hoping.
You'd think so.
And it would have both versions, because that was kind of the shitty thing with, I think when the Logan Blu-ray... No, the Logan Blu-ray didn't. They released the Logan Blu-ray, and then they released the black and white one of Logan. And I'm like, dude, you couldn't...
They did that for Mad Max. They did Mad Max Fury Road, and then they had the black and chrome edition of Mad Max Fury Road. Which I've invested in both because I love Mad Max. I'm very sad that Furiosa is dropping even further. How... Steve... got through the entire show, but we have to at least mention.
Okay, before we do that, Godzilla Minus One, thumbs up.
Thumbs up, A+. Definitely check out Godzilla Minus One. If you don't, you're doing yourself an incredible disservice.
Okay, what's our epilogue for this episode?
Garfield beat Furiosa. The new Garfield movie.
Yeah. But the thing was, it beat it, but that's not a good thing for either movie, because it did not make a lot of money.
No.
It's going to be Garfield's going to be a gigantic animated bomb.
Yeah.
By what it did its opening weekend. Because now, of course, the opening first 2 weeks literally makes or break a movie now.
Yeah. Furiosa lost to it.
Because the problem with the Mad Max Fury Road, if you remember, it was a critical darling, but it wasn't a massive box office success at first. It was one of those ones that kind of...
It was like
built,
2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah, it built... Like, it had a slow opening, and then it kind of exploded.
Yeah.
Where this one went in with the highest of expectations, because you put in Chris Hemsworth and Anna Taylor-Joy, where even though Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy were in the first one, Chris Hemsworth is kind of like the flavor of the moment now, as far as like the big actor.
He's getting so close to that Pratt precipice of just being like, God, I don't want you to hang out with me anymore, man. I need a little break.
He kind of is, except for I still really like him, like, in everything I see him in personally. Like, as
that's true. I don't have an issue with him
he doesn't
as
drive
a
me
person.
nuts.
Yeah.
And he's not doing these god-awful direct-to-Amazon video movies that I watch and I regret
He did
ever
just
having
do
eyeballs.
this big campaign for Clash of Clans. Or whatever their new non-Clash of Clans.
The first one,
is.
I was like, oh, why are you doing that? But then the second commercial was him fighting the old Clash of Clans. Did you see that one?
That's with Dolph Lundgren.
With Dolph Lundgren. I was like, okay, that's fucking awesome. You have Thor and Ivan Drago fighting with swords. This is the greatest commercial
Dressed
ever
as
made.
He-Man.
Dressed as He-Man. So I give him that. Like, that's funny. But, like... Yeah, Chris Pratt is... I could see what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
He is getting into that rock Chris Pratt category.
He's around all the time. He's becoming ubiquitous. And they're just... You know, sometimes you just need a little air to breathe.
Yes.
But, I'm sad that Furiosa is not doing as well as it should. I can't wait to see it. I just don't know when I'm going to see it. Because now we're getting into that... The internet hasn't caught on to it and been like, I was hoping that after the first week, it was going to be one of those like, no, everybody go out and see it, kind of like Mad Max. That has not been a thing.
Well, and the good thing, there's two things. The good thing about it, tanking, is it'll probably be on streaming sooner than later.
Yes.
Which that's good.
I'm surprised that Fall Guy is already on streaming.
Because that was on that list too. It was number 2 on the list of bombs because it lost so much fucking money. That and Argyle,
even though it
both
looked
of them
so
went
good.
right to streaming.
I still think Fall Guy looks really good. I can't wait to see it.
I think it does too, but it's a cliche. You know, it's a niche property built on a show from the 80s that most people they're trying to get out to watch it.
Is it based on a show?
Oh yeah, there was Lee Majors made a show called The Fall Guy. Him and Heather Thomas.
No, don't know.
He was a stuntman that like solved crimes.
Huh?
It was like the A-Team but with a stuntman.
Literally never heard of it.
That's why at the premiere, Lee Majors was there, like fucking a million years old.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's based on an old property. Yeah. And it's like I'll be honest, I like the A-Team movie. It bombed mainly because no one fucking knew about the A-Team.
Yeah.
It was fucking 30-year-old property at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is it's even older. It's a 40-year-old property that they're basing a movie on. It's like, yeah, you got Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. It is probably great, but it's like people don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. You had Armie Hammer. You had
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Directed by Guy Ritchie.
Yep.
Nobody cared.
Yep.
Nobody cared.
Even the Equalizer movies, they only kept making sequels because they had very low budgets, and so they made money, kind of like horror movies do, where it's like they didn't have these inflated budgets. There was like $20 million, and they made 50 at the box office, so it's enough of a success to make another one. But that's a one based on a property from the fucking 80s, The Equalizer. And it's like, what's that show with Queen Latifah that is doing
also
terrible?
The Equalizer.
Oh yeah, the Equalizer, but with her, and it's like that's doing terrible on TV. I don't know if that's just because it's on TV and no one watches fucking network TV anymore.
It's on CBS too. That's on your grandma's TV.
Yeah,
that's not on TV. That's on grandma's TV.
It's on grandma's TV. But the second part of I've been reading is every now and then we'll have these big hit movies at the theater, but theater going is still down so much that no movie is making money. Like once again, 1 out of every say 5 movies that gets released actually turns a profit.
Yeah. No, I've seen so many YouTube videos in the last 2 weeks being like, what is wrong with the theater system in America? Because I think we're finally hitting it. COVID started something, and now we're really hitting the point where people are like, no, I'm not going to go out and see that movie because I don't want to spend an arm and a leg to see it in a theater that I don't find comfortable with people that I find annoying when I can't pause it or have subtitles on. I would rather just wait an extra 3 weeks for it to come out on streaming, and then I can pause it to go to the bathroom and get a snack and do all the things I want to do.
And I'm going to compare it to bowling. Speaking as a family man, bowling has gotten to the point, unless you have a Groupon, you cannot take your family bowling.
Kelly's work wanted to do a work function bowling at an alley, and they found that budgetarily it was too high. It was too expensive for all of them to go.
Well, here's a good example. The Groupon we usually get, it's 4 people bowling for 2 hours, shoes included, for $36. Typically, it's $140
That's insane.
for that exact same situation.
That's insane.
$140.
Back in my day, bowling was like a cheap, easy thing you could do with a date.
During the summers when I was in high school, for the summer, they would do $1 a game.
Yeah.
I would go there with $10 and spend the entire afternoon bowling with my friends.
Yeah.
And it's like now, not only that, the drinks, the food are astronomical. And it's same with the movies. The drinks, the food is insane.
Yeah.
How much, and that's the big problem. And like for me, even people like me who I used to, when I was single, I would go to 3 movies a week in the theater. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily love the theater going experience anymore because of the fact that I do like the comfort of being in my house, putting my headphones on, having whatever food, getting herbally enhanced, if you want to call it.
Or having a few drinks.
Exactly. Wait, like I can fucking Fall Guy, what was it? It was $24.99 to buy it. I could buy that movie cheaper than a ticket and a popcorn and drink.
Yeah. No, and not by a small amount.
Yeah.
You could buy it for cheaper, I think by like $20.
Yeah.
It's almost twice as much to go out and see it.
And that's for one person. I'm not
Yeah.
saying 2 people going and getting popcorn and drink.
Yeah.
That's one person going, getting a large popcorn and a drink, no candy.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck.
Yeah, no.
So it's, I truly think, once again, everyone blames COVID for ruining. I don't think it was. It's kind of, I think the film industry was kind of like the housing bubble. Mm. It had inflated into this thing that is just impossible to keep. And then COVID burst the bubble. And now they just cannot get it back because people, it's like the restaurant industry, how they're having such a hard time getting people to do dishwashing and cooking jobs because they're like, it actually sucks for the amount of money you're fucking paying me. And so I'm not going to wash dishes for minimum wage 40 hours a week, getting sweaty and wet and working until 2 in the morning. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So they can't find people. And then, they're deporting people that would do the fucking jobs. And it's like, now, theaters, people are like, well, why the fuck would I do that?
Yeah.
I have all these streaming. Like, you can go on Netflix right now, even without, like, Godzilla. There's a million movies.
Yeah. My Vudu is a much better option. Like, if we're talking about personal
Between your
collections,
Vudu and my Vudu combined, fuck, that's 1,000 movies.
Easily.
And that's not counting the over 1,000 I have on VHS, or not VHS, Blu-ray and DVD in my house.
Exactly. There are just better options now. And also, I think that there's something to be said about the fact that so many studios are collapsing into one. Yeah. I think that people point to like an A24 or a Blumhouse movie and they say, hey, this is great because it's artistic and it does this and this and this. And then you have the big tentpole Disney/Fox movie that's coming out and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Because it's soulless. It's just more money being pushed into a thing. It's Carol's dress transforming on this singing, dancing planet for no reason.
Yeah.
And you're just, what the fuck is this? What do you want me to do with it?
I'll be honest, when I went to see Star Wars with my son last month, there was a douchebag in a stormtrooper helmet that sat in front of my son, and for the first, 20 minutes of the movie, he had it on. My son couldn't see shit. And I was about to tell him to take it off, but he took it off. And it was like, I don't have to worry about that at home.
No. You don't have to worry about somebody getting rowdy or being on their phone. So many theaters I've had people just on their phones.
So bad.
And they don't care.
They don't listen to Nicole Kidman.
No. Well, my thing is you have to do what the Alamo does. Put your money where your mouth is. You get one warning. If you get more than that, you're gone, no refund. Get out of here. We don't need you.
With the Nicole Kidman thing, you go to a movie that starts at 4. The movie itself doesn't start until 4:30.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just wasted 40 minutes because I had to get there early to get the popcorn and everything and make sure I got my seats. Mm-hmm. And then another half hour, and then I'm watching a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
It's just become
too much.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
and then she takes up 5 minutes of my fucking time. Yeah. In that big book that St. Peter supposedly has that tells you the amount of everything that you've ever done ever, I want to know the amount of time I've lost to Nicole Kidman.
You're going to look up what are Al's arch nemesis. There are 3 of them. Spider-Man Homecoming, Marita Menounos, and Nicole Kidman because they all wasted too much of his time.
Just all of my time. Oh, you're a fucking time vampire. Yeah. God damn it.
And it's funny because every time we go to a movie and that before thing with Maria Menounos, that's always shitty. It's just commercials. I miss the old school Lowe's theater when you went in and they had
give me fucking
the
trivia
and Rick Astley playing on the music. You know what I mean?
Give me trivia and local brands that are just on screen. It's not a commercial.
Not a commercial.
It's just a brand on screen.
Yes.
And then there's a trivia.
Music
give me that.
That was the best.
100% take that over what we have currently.
And then when the lights go down, trailers start.
Yeah.
There's no commercials.
There's 3 trailers. We get to the fucking movie.
Yes.
Please.
And the trailers actually have something to do with the movie you're watching.
Yes.
You're not going to watch a movie that's technically a kid's movie and they show that goddamn Zendaya trailer.
Although, I will say, and we'll close out the show on this because now we've been tangenting on this for about 15 minutes. We do get to have that experience at home still. Because if you go on Disney Plus now, you will start watching something. I can't remember what we were watching, so we'll just say that we were watching The Marvels. All right, so you're watching The Marvels, and you get through the movie, and what pops up as something you'd like to watch next on Disney? Could it be Bluey? Or maybe Mickey Mouse? How about American Horror Story?
Really?
Oh, 100%, dude. I get so many ads for Shogun and American Horror Story and The Bear on Disney. It's always in that top.
Hulu.
Exactly. And so it's just
See, it's different for us because we're watching it under the kids filter. So we get Mickey's Clubhouse because that's what my kids used to watch. And even now my son's like, Why the hell has Mickey's Clubhouse come up? We haven't watched that in years. And fun comes up every time.
Oh, yeah.
So, folks, that was a great tangent. Thank you, Al, for getting that tangent off the rails. I appreciate that.
We would be doing a disservice to all of our fans if we didn't bring up a Chris Pratt property that was doing something.
But it's great that I think this is the first time that our longest tangent was the epilogue of the show.
Yeah,
it's the beginning.
It's usually the beginning of the show.
This was a first for us, folks. 141, and we got a first.
This was literally, we got to an hour and 20 minutes, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a short one. All right, okay. No. I got a 15-minute tangent for you.
Well, folks, episode 141. Once again, if you want to know more about us, go to NerdPodGen. There's links to all of our separate sites. Al, tell us about our artwork and our music.
Our art was made by Kortney Howell. Awesome. Our theme song was made by Brendan Williams and James Connelly.
So awesome.
I am Alfred Judson.
And I'm Steve Taylor.
And until next week, friends and enemies, maybe it'll be Trash Week. We've been hinting at Trash Week for a while.
Star Wars Acolyte.
Well, that could still go into Trash Week.
That still could be Trash Week. That could be Obi-Wan number 3.
Just saying.
All right, folks.
Have a great week, friends and enemies.